Joining me now to talk more about the rare legal action by the Oakland County prosecutor, our friend Dave Ehrenberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida. Dave, we'll talk about the terrorism in a moment, but basically what this means, the guilty plea by Ethan Crumbley, there will not be a trial. So how do the families feel about that typically? Is it relief that they don't have to relive the details, or is it we may never have the answers to some of the questions that we so want?
Marni, it's hard to get in the heads of these families who have suffered so much, but generally these plea deals are not offered unless the families are behind it. And I would think that the families would feel a sense of closure and also a little bit of relief knowing that they're not going to have to endure a trial. And there's no chance that Ethan Crumbley will be found not guilty. Plus, you have the upcoming trial of his parents, where they could get more information and more justice. And I think that's one of the reasons why Ethan Crumbley pled guilty. I think it's also an ability to shove some of the blame onto his parents, who are not pleading guilty, who are still being obstinate about the refusal to take any responsibility. So hopefully this does give the families a measure of justice and a measure of closure, but it's hard to get inside their heads at this point.
Well, the other thing, Dave, is we learned some new things that we had not heard from before, coming directly from Ethan Crumbley about his parents, about the gun, specifically that he said that the gun was not locked up, that he gave his dad money to purchase the gun. How does that play into their case?
Marni, it definitely helps the prosecution against the Crumbley parents, because you're right. We had not heard those details before. This goes to their recklessness. Not only did the father act as a straw purchaser to buy the gun for his son actually paid for the gun. His son's money was used to buy the gun, but his father knew his son couldn't buy it himself, so he bought it for him and then didn't even lock it up. So it goes to the recklessness of this family. It could go towards a guilty verdict later on, because this is important proof to show that they neglected their duties as parents to take care of their son, to watch over him, and to make sure he doesn't become a school shooter like this.
Right, and to get him the help that he needed when he clearly laid out some red flags and asking specifically for help. I wondered when I heard this, Dave, if he would testify against his parents in their trial. Could that happen?
It could. And if it does, maybe he does that in the hope of getting a shorter sentence from the judge. He's facing life in prison. He's hoping that he'll get sentenced to juvenile sanctions. That ain't going to happen. He's going to get adult sanctions. The question is whether he ever gets paroled down the line. And one way, perhaps, to convince the judge who will give the sentence to do so is to show his willingness to testify against his parents.
So when you talk about the sentence as a minor, 16 years old, what would be the other options that the judge would consider then, given the fact that he is cooperating despite the horrific crime that he committed?
He could get juvenile sanctions technically, although it's not going to happen here. But under the law, he could, because he was a minor when he committed these horrific crimes. But because these crimes are so heinous, so serious, I believe he will get adult sanctions. Now, he could get life in prison. Under the law, you could still get life as a juvenile as long as you go through the individualized factors, his upbringing, any mitigating factors. You can't just automatically sentence a juvenile to life in prison without considering individualized factors, the problems he had growing up and so forth. But if he does cooperate against his parents, if he does show enough remorse, perhaps he's hoping to get parole at a certain point where he could be let out of jail while he's still alive. But make no mistake, he's going to get adult sanctions from this.
Right, and that's a concern, right, at any point let out given the crime. The terrorism charge, how significant is that? The prosecutor made a pretty big deal of it.
It's a big deal in that this is the first time a school shooter has ever pled guilty, has ever been found guilty of terrorism. In fact, I don't recall any other school shooter ever being charged with terrorism. Nicholas Cruz in Broward was not charged with that. He was charged with first-degree murder, many counts. But this could set a precedent for future cases where not only are these defendants charged with murder, but acts of terrorism for the people who did not die, the people who were terrorized in this school shooting. And perhaps that is maybe a lasting positive impact from this case, that charge is now fair game for future prosecutors in similar cases.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.